The O Cannabis Conference and Expo returns to Toronto June 1st through the 3rd, and there's still some good booth locations available. This exciting event is free for cannabis retailers and will feature Tommy Chong receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award at the O Cannabis Industry Awards. For more information about exhibiting or to register to attend, go to ocannabis.com. That's OCANNABIZ.com.
All right, so today we're going to take a look at a report from at least 9 different markets throughout North America, including Canada, to give us a better idea about what's happening in a normalized market. With real estate, it used to be about location, 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 and now just the average size home, no matter where you're at, is $404,000, which is a whole different podcast. But what we're trying to say here is that these prices that we're seeing from Saskatchewan to Illinois to California, they're going to give us an idea about what's going to happen globally as kind of this whole market kind of comes together, unifying, normalizing, giving us an idea of what's going to happen in the future. Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. Again, we're going to take a look at this report from Headset, just looking at some numbers here about what's happening in the marketplace. California, their total sales for the month of November was $342 million. So it's quite a bit when you look at, a place like Illinois that was just capping at 100 million, relatively new emerging market in Illinois. But there's still really good numbers. So it's not as good as it was the month prior in October. Actually, California had a 2.7% drop, but nonetheless, you're still seeing that California is doing pretty well. So it looks like they may have peaked right around September and kind of coming back down. And I don't know, that could be a number of reasons. It might be because there's disposable income is less. People are kind of cutting back as this second wave is coming and people are readjusting what they're buying. So instead of cannabis, they're buying more toilet paper, whatever it is that they're getting ready for this second wave of this pandemic. And it's about the same everywhere you look at. Colorado, Nevada and Washington, relatively flat. Washington is the third best market overall, which is really surprising. But again, during this pandemic, we've kind of seen that stability is really important instead of kind of chaos that we saw in Colorado and Nevada with the lack of tourism. Speaking of Colorado, they're at 169 million for total sales in the month of November. Not so well in Nevada. They're only at 61 million. So kind of leveling off there, really dependent on tourism, obviously. But with Washington, 120 million, not bad. This is a petri dish experiment in Washington. Terrible laws, people leaving, like Willie's Private Reserve left Washington State for greener pastures. Oregon also plateaued kind of in September, looking at around 95 million for November, whereas in September they had 111 million for the month. Michigan dipped right after October as well. We didn't have the numbers for Michigan for September, but I'm assuming it was better than October and November. Looking up at our friends in the north in Canada, Alberta is at 52 million and British Columbia at 38 million. That's about a 2 and a 4% jump respectively for that area. All right, moving on to, instead of month over month, let's look at what's happening for the year. Year over year is giving us a better idea about how people are kind of readjusting to what might be the new normal. So in California, year over year sales growth was only 16% from November of 2020 versus November, of last year. Not so good. So it's actually declining significantly, looking like it plateaued right around April at 77% year over year growth for California. It's only 16% now. So a lot of people are leaving California, as a matter of fact. They've got some lockdowns as well. And so it's definitely essential. But again, maybe people are readjusting what they're buying or just leaving altogether. Colorado's year over year sales growth is at 47%. It took a massive dip in May where it was negative 8%. rebounding nice to 47%, as some of their maybe tourism is coming back. Nevada kind of saw a dip in June, negative 23%, but Nevada's at 8%. So we'll call that flat. Year over year sales growth is struggling in Nevada as they're kind of still waiting for people to kind of come back and gamble and go to events, but that's not going to happen for a while. Washington State, again, relatively flat, which is really good. So 24% year over year sales growth is good for an existing market. So we're seeing in Massachusetts 62%, Oregon 38. Again, the difference between Massachusetts and Oregon is that Oregon's been around for a lot longer, and so Massachusetts people are stocking up still, hoping that cannabis remains an essential good as it wasn't last year. British Columbia 200%, Alberta 77%, and that's because new stores are coming online. I would expect that people would start going and gravitating towards convenience and price. Two things that haven't been a part of that Canada 2.0 rollout with less quality and really expensive products. So maybe now they're just either the prices are coming down and or quality is going up. Hopefully the borders will reopen so I can get up there and see what's going on in person. Let's move on to average basket size. So this is how much people are going in and spending on average. In California, it's about $66, which makes sense because for delivery, I think it was $60 or $65 for minimum delivery fees. And so that's, about normal, maybe 4% less than normal, but it's around what is normal. Colorado's seeing relatively the same amount, $62, and Nevada's at $68, whereas Washington is only $33.80. So why would Washington be almost half or less than half of California and Nevada? And I think the easiest answer is that it's convenience. Again, price and convenience. In Washington, we have so many stores. Granted, it's a lot less than we used to have, 2,000 stores back in 2016, and now we have 500. So it's literally a fraction, a quarter of what we had before, but convenient enough, right? So the prices are right and the convenience is there. And so we only go and buy what we need when we need it. So we're probably going more often, but spending, only $33 when we do go. So that's my take on Washington. It's been very interesting watching Washington do its thing, because it was a terrible place to do business in before with all of the regulations and issues and restrictions, and yet now look at it. So because we don't rely on tourism, it is doing much, much better than a lot of these other places, with the exception of any new rollout. So Illinois is doing phenomenal in Massachusetts, but you can see the trend. It's going down. People are spending less. They're spending less in October than they did September, and less than they did in August. It's coming down as people, again, are probably reallocating their spending behavior and purchases towards, toilet paper or whatever else. Maybe they were expecting their job to go back to normal, or maybe they got laid off. There's been a lot more layoffs. So I think this is about disposable income adjusting and changing more than anything else. But back to the numbers, looking at Alberta, average basket size when you go up into British Columbia is around $43 and $44 between Alberta and British Columbia, whereas in Massachusetts it's going to be $91. So people are going out and trying new things, spending a lot of money, looking to see what they like. Maybe they're hoarding in anticipation of the pandemic closing down stores like they did last year in Massachusetts. But Oregon, it's the same as Washington. It's $40. They're going in, they're buying what they want, when they want, just out of convenience. We can look at, some other places like Michigan. We only have a couple of months for Michigan. So looks like they're relatively the same at about $86. So spending more because they're new, a new emerging state. Whereas Ontario and Saskatchewan at $50 and $46 respectively. So kind of see what happens with more time as we can see some trends, but that's all the data we have for the middle of nowhere up in Canada for Saskatchewan, which is not a bad idea to look at Saskatchewan on what rural America will do. So I do like that aspect of Saskatchewan. All right, so looking at the count of baskets, rebounding in California, rebounding in Colorado and Nevada, flat in Washington, all good signs, I guess. And looking at Alberta and British Columbia, Illinois, Massachusetts, all fairly flat. So it looks like the number of times that people are going in and buying and the count of baskets is remaining relatively flat, which is good. Whereas with brand concentration, it's coming down. So it's coming down in California, Nevada, and Washington, where it's relatively flat, if not spiking in Colorado. So brand concentration is the number of products that the top 5 brands have, and so that's reducing, which is good. So that means it's more competitive rather than just having your top 5 brands selling all the majority of products. It's coming down in California, so that's good. Only 25% of the top 5 brands are selling. 27% Colorado, 31% in Nevada, 22% in Washington. So brand concentrations are coming down a little bit. That's nice. A little bit higher up in Canada as they're kind of just starting out. They don't have as much competition. So brand concentration is as high as 45%, meaning the top 5 brands have almost half of the market share up in Alberta and British Columbia versus 23% in Oregon. That's because Oregon has had a lot longer to get differentiated brands and products in there. So that explains that. So we'll have to see what happens in December after Green Wednesday. That's the day before Thanksgiving. It's a huge day, kind of like Black Friday for most products being sold. Outside of 420, it's one of the biggest spikes as people kind of go and get edibles and whatever else before Thanksgiving. So we'll have to do another report and see what happens for products right before the Thanksgiving holiday. So you have to come back to the Talking Hedge and find out.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.
Hello, hemp friends. This is your host, Morris, from Volume Up, the Let's Talk Hemp podcast, where we explore and discuss all things hemp all the time. From industrial to nutritional to therapeutic to lifestyle, hemp has a place and a home pretty much everywhere. Download episodes now of the Let's Talk Hemp podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Come get loud with me on Volume Up as we take industrial hemp to a whole new level in 2022 and beyond.